Okay, so now we're getting into the swing of things, baby. It's week 4 in the NFL season, and the games are getting good. So how do you get involved in all the great matchups this week? You use the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All new customers bet only $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly at the DraftKings Sportsbook. So why not bet that $5 and get these bonus bets? Come on, man. We trying to get y'all caked up. You know what it is. You love your team. You love watching football. Staying on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you're not a new customer, I'm not going to forget about you. All customers can get in on 2 different offers every single game day this September. So go now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use my promo code DCTV to get started. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. We always want something more, and DraftKings is doing that for you. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the second episode of Cormier's Corner. You got me, DC. You got my cousin, Terry. Military, also works at the Orange County Sheriff's Department. He is the man. You guys got to meet him last week. He made me cut that out last week. Fuck it, I'm going back to it. He's like, why, man? Somebody going to show up to my job. You got Craig. Y'all know Craig. Played football in college, has some really interesting takes, has more enemies in mixed martial arts today as of week 2. My nephew Jamell played college basketball, has very strong opinions. There are people that agree with him. There are people that are really pissed off by him. And it looked like you got a brand new shirt on. I mean,
hey man, we casual, baby. Let's go, man. I'm casual. I'm representing all the casuals out there, baby. Let's go.
The casual fan on.
Let's go, baby. Casual.
Hey,
I've been to plenty of events, but I'm still a casual.
Yeah, you casual. You casual. I hear you. Craig, you got a haircut look like.
You know. Since I'm an expert now, I have to come back and show up like I'm an expert, you know? So got an expert haircut.
Lace, I wonder, what is that Mexican flag? What does that symbolize?
Hey, I got to keep it real, man. I live in a house. My wife's Mexican, so I got to support, man. I got to show love. And I'm not that far from the border, so like, hey.
I love that, Lace. Yeah. I love that. And Jamell, when you got up earlier, bro, what kind of chair you sitting on, man? Look like where you got that chair from you?
WrestleMania, baby. Let's go. Hey, but I got 2 of them things somehow. Don't ask me how I got it, but I got 2.
Terry said that's them chairs we were stealing from the wrestling.
I had one seat.
I had to correct myself because it's not stealing. It was just like we rightfully acquired those chairs, bro.
We rightfully acquired 8 chairs.
But we paid for the tickets, so they're our chairs.
Actually, we didn't pay for the tickets. Terry, as you said, your wife is Mexican. You're representing Mexico, like the Mexican flag behind you. I live in Gilroy, so I'm surrounded by many people, Hispanic people. So first topic today, guys, we just had the Noche UFC event on Mexican Independence Day. Rousing success for the UFC. Canelo Alvarez was one of the great Mexican boxers, generally would fight on that weekend. He said that he was very proud of Alexa Grasso and all the Mexican fighters that fought on that day. But come next year, he will be trying to get that date again. Keep in mind, fellas, the UFC got that date because they were number 2. They were second in line for hosting an event on Mexican Independence Day at T-Mobile. Canelo said, I'm going to fight later. He just beat Jamell Charlo over the weekend. He didn't want the date. It moved to the UFC. Now, the UFC says they want to make this a yearly thing. Canelo says he wants the date back, even going so far as to say, I'm not afraid to go the same night as the UFC. So my question to y'all is, UFC, boxing's on. What y'all watching? Like, Terry, what are you watching?
Man, I'm and I hate to say this, man, because I'm a boxing guy, but I'm putting the UFC on first. If they do another Noche UFC, I'm putting that on first. I might have boxing on the side on the computer, depending on who's fighting, what type of matchups, but the UFC just makes better quality matchups. So I think I'm going to go Noche UFC.
Go ahead, Craig.
Unfortunately, I'm a different take on it. I'm going to go boxing all the way. When you think about it, when you think about it, man, it's just the purest in the whole form of everything. man. And if Canelo's fighting, you know all the eyes are gonna be drawn to old Cinnamon. So we're gonna watch boxing. We're gonna lock in. We're gonna watch Canelo take on whoever he decides to put in the ring and roll boxing.
Go ahead, Jamell.
I don't believe you being honest, Mo. I don't believe you being honest, bro. Because I didn't watch. I like Canelo, but the last few fights I watched of Canelo, dog, I changed that shit right back to the UFC. I am not lying. Hey, it is not the same, bro. It's not the same. Listen, if they both on, I ain't lying though. It depends who boxing and who's fighting.
So So we keeping it real with that. But I'm saying we know
the biggest
Canelo
name
wants that date.
But the biggest name in boxing is Canelo Alvarez, right? So you're essentially weighing Canelo Alvarez versus whoever the UFC got on that night. But Noche UFC had Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko for the second time. An amazing fight, an amazing fight card. So Jamell, tasked with that. Alexa Grasso, Valentina Shevchenko, or Canelo Alvarez, who are you watching? That's the question.
Hey, let me be honest with you. If those two fights is on, I'm watching it at Buffalo Wild Wings because they both on, baby. They gonna be on at the same time. They gonna be on at the same time. Mo. I'm telling you right now, I'm watching both. Bro, watch both. But I may pay more attention to UFC on. I'm not even gonna lie. Yes, I mean, I like Canelo on, but it has to be a good matchup, right? It has to be a good matchup for me to be focused because it's not very exciting no more.
Jamel Charlo, what y'all saw last week. He from Carencro. He from Carencro, Louisiana, born.
Yeah, he's a Louisiana boy too, man. So I wanted him to pull it off, but I just knew it was like an impossible task. Like him coming up from 154 to 168, I just knew he wouldn't have the power to hurt Canelo. But it's reasons like that why I'm gonna watch the UFC, because they're just not putting on the matchups that I want to see. I want to see fucking Benavidez versus Canelo. Then I'm tuning on to boxing all day.
So it's all in the matchup.
It's all in the matchups.
But when I was in that arena on Mexican Independence Day, bruh, the crowd was absolutely fantastic. And then I started to kind of think about it, right? I was like, I know that I've seen some great boxers fight on this day. So we got some stats. Guys, I got to read them a little bit because I want you to know I paid attention. But look, they started doing this in 1991. And that was when Don King set up Julio Cesar Chavez and he fought Lonnie Smith, Terry. You're probably the only one that will remember that. But dog, from 91 to 95, Chavez fought every year. Chavez fought Hector Camacho. He fought Pernell Whitaker. He fought Meldrick Taylor. And he fought David Kamal. Dog, think about the names, though, Terry. If you are fighting or they're fighting, if you got Canelo fighting that level of competition, you're always watching the boxing fight. But I think the problem is the boxing fights aren't what they were back then. So it makes it easier to flip to the UFC. But, bro, when we were in that arena, it was crazy. It felt like I was in Mexico City. And I wonder, did y'all get that same feel when y'all was watching off the TV screen? Bro, they gave no Mexican flags. All those flags were people that brought that in to the arena. Nobody got that for free, Terry.
And that's the greatest fan base in combat sports, at least for boxing. So now it's starting to transition into MMA. So you're starting to see that in MMA and the UFC, whereas like the Mexican fighters are being represented. So the fan base is coming with them.
When you think about that as a Mexican athlete today in the UFC, who pops off the page to y'all in regards to who's that guy or that woman that can lead the UFC into the next? Because y'all remember when Cain Velasquez was the champ, right? Although he was born in the UFC, first generation, he had the brown pride tattoo. You knew who was the Mexican fighter in the UFC to watch. Who do you think it is now in the UFC, Craig?
Honestly, I didn't think about this before, but like in the last maybe year and a half, I'm starting to feel like Yair Rodriguez is that guy. Even though he just got beat by Volk, it don't matter. He got beat by Volk, but he got beat by Volk. Volk was just putting it on him. He wasn't putting him away. Yair was still there. So he was showing that Mexican heart or that Mexican pride that everybody is accustomed to seeing Mexican fighters. I didn't think that was Yair Rodriguez earlier on until seeing him go through these last two fights and seeing him scrap his tail off. I think Yair Rodriguez, because of his striking and his flashy ability. But now with his toughness, I think it's Yair.
What about you, Unc?
I gotta go with Brandon, baby. I gotta go.
That's
with the
what I
baby
was
assassin,
thinking.
dog.
That's the
I
guy
gotta
I
go
was
with the
thinking,
baby
bro.
assassin, dog. Not only does he bang and super skilled, he got swag. Oh, he be, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he be out there swagging, baby. That's who I'm tuning into. I love Yair too. Yair super skilled, explosive, but I gotta go with the baby assassin. We talk about Mexico. Hey, when he won that belt, you seen the shift. It was
Yeah,
a
he
big
did.
shift. It
Bro,
was a
I
big
mean,
shift.
Terry
Pains
talking
went
about
up
the rabid
everywhere.
fan base. Like, dude, the next day they had a mural built to this boy in his hometown.
Yeah.
They painted that overnight.
I
for
gotta
him.
go with the baby assassin, dog. He got
Hey,
swag.
Nugget, Daniel. I know I caught flack for this when you and Stipe had y'all show, but somebody picked Brandon to be the best on that show.
Wait, when?
What?
You
What
gotta
shows?
clarify that, bro.
Oh yeah, you try. You
Oh my
lying,
gosh.
man.
So he was the 16th seed.
Oh no, he wasn't on my show. Hey, he cut off. Stipe wasn't on my show. Stipe was on. He was the 16th seed, but he wasn't on my season. It was somebody else. Craig on some bullshit, and I'm glad it's actually ideal that it should. They about to call him casual.
Craig robot right now. I don't know what Craig was saying, but he didn't throw. Mo, you throwing a robot right now,
you
bro.
Freezing, Craig. You freezing saved your life because they're about to call you casual because it wasn't me and Stipe's season whenever Brandon Moreno was on. I had them other dudes. Brandon was the 16th seed. And you probably did call me to tell me he was the man, but it wasn't my season of The Ultimate Fighter. But guys, before we move on, listen to some of these greats that have fought on Mexican Independence Day, because I think that certain people kind of miss it. They don't understand the importance of how big a weekend that is for fight sports, right? You had Oscar De La Hoya. He fought Trinidad. Mosley fought De La Hoya. You had Juan Manuel Marquez against Casamayor. You had Floyd Mayweather fighting Victor Ortiz. Then he fought Canelo. And then you had Canelo and Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. Everybody races to that weekend. Noche UFC was a success. They had 1 million unique viewers on ESPN Plus. Bro, 1 million new people went to ESPN Plus. So the UFC tapped into a brand new and a brand new set of fans, right? More Mexican people went to ESPN Plus than they ever did. But the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, every time Canelo fights there, it does really well. Last night you saw it.
The thing with UFC is like they can put on 12 fights that I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna watch all 12. I'm a boxing guy.
Boxing don't do fight cards that go all the way down.
I'm a boxing guy, but there's usually only 2 fights that's right. Other than that, they're just bringing people up. So it's just like that's where UFC wins with me, and that's where I think they probably would get that date because it's more of an exciting show all around for hours instead of just waiting for that one fight at 10 o'clock at night, you know?
Bro, they had these jerseys in there. They had these green, white, and red jerseys, and it said Noche UFC. It was a baseball jersey. Bro, I wanted one so bad that every time I tried to go get one from the concourse, they were sold out, bro. I went to the products department. I was like, guys, please give me a Noche UFC jersey. They said, DC, when we put some back up, we'll pull one. By the time I made it back up to the concourse to get it, sold out again. Every 5 minutes, bro. Every 5 minutes, they were selling out of this baseball jersey. It said Noche UFC. It looked like it was a tattoo on the back, and it was red, white, and green. These people were going absolutely crazy. It was one of the best fight cards that I've seen, and the Mexican fighters showed out. And when the Mexican fighters won, it was so loud. I don't think I've ever heard a place louder than when Kane would fought in Mexico City and he came out of the curtain to defend his championship against Fabricio Verdum. It really was a phenomenal night then, and it was a phenomenal night last time we fought over Mexican Independence Day because that crowd was absolutely amazing. Guys, we talk about fighting, and one of the things that I like the most about fighting is it really is the only thing that most of the world thinks that they can do. You can trick yourself into thinking you're a good football player. You can trick yourself into thinking you're a good basketball player, but you know in your heart you can't play football or basketball. But everybody in the world believes they can beat someone. but everybody in the world does not believe they can beat the world heavyweight champion. But y'all got to hear this.
I could beat him for real. But like I said, with a year of training defense, I just need ground defense.
I think the scary thing, because we're big athletes, it's like, okay, JJ can move how you move, and he's 6'8". Right. That's the scary part, like where, okay, he can do everything you do, and he's 6'8". Like, that's where the big difference comes in.
Yeah, and the opposite is he started learning how to use your hands and your feet. What, after college? Like, I've been punching and kicking since I was 5-6 years old. So like the same thing for me though is the opposite for him, because he been wrestling for that long, learning all his wrestling moves and things like that for that long. For me, you know what I mean, I started learning the wrestling game and all that in middle school, the jiu-jitsu. You know, he has a big advantage there because no one wants to get on the floor, but as long as I can keep him from going on the floor, I'll win.
All right. So James Johnson said that with a year of training, he could beat Jon Jones and become the heavyweight champion of the world. He said that he's been doing karate and stuff since he was a kid. Said he's 7-0 in pro MMA, and he had 20 kickboxing fights. I've never seen anything. I went down the rabbit hole to try to find those fights. I can't find those fights. James Johnson was the first-round draft pick in the NBA. He says he can beat the man. Can you just decide that you can beat a heavyweight champion of the world? I mean, Jamell, is he out of his fucking mind? Or do you think this guy really believes that in a year he can beat Jon Jones?
Listen, he's out of his fucking mind for this take. Anything else, I don't know. I can only judge off of what you just played me, right? I don't know him. He's a basketball guy. I want to take off on him, but he is out of his mind. You can train your whole life for something. You can beat somebody in the UFC, but you're not beating Jon Jones in the UFC. You just can't train for 1 year. You can't train for 1 year and just say, "Hey, I'm beating Jon Jones." That's not how it happened. To say if I could just stay off the ground, you know how many people thought they could just stay off the ground with Jon Jones? It doesn't happen. Hey, listen. I didn't like Jon Jones, but I have to be respectful and I have to say Jon Jones is an amazing talent, right? I inherited your beef with Jon Jones because whoever you had beef with, I had beef with. Hey, when we was in that lobby, I thought it was go time. But listen, he not beating Jon Jones, dog.
But what about you?
I can tell you who he can beat, though.
Who?
Tony Ferguson.
No, Jamell, don't do that. Jamell, don't do that. Stop. Stop. Oh.
All right, I quit.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Hey, I just trolling. I was just trolling. I'm trolling. I got my casual shirts on. I got to give a casual take today. But
Tony
listen,
you up.
He out of his mind, though. He is out of his mind, though.
Go ahead, Craig.
Hey, Daniel, bro, you said you went and searched and looked for like something on those 7
MMA
fights and all that, right? You know why you couldn't find them?
Why?
Because they in Mexico. My dog went to Mexico, bro. Look, I watched Rocky. When Rocky was fighting in them church halls and stuff like that, I remember one little line they talked about Rocky going. They took Adonis Creed to Mexico to get him a couple of wins. My dog went and fight a couple fights while he was in Mexico.
The reason he can't find it because he made that shit up in his mind. That boy did not fight 20. That's 30 fights, bro. He's saying he has 30 fights, Terry. He's saying he's got 20 kickboxing fights and he's got 7 MMA fights. But he ultimately believes that the reason he can beat Jon Jones is because he's 6'8". How in the world do you believe that just height is the determining factor? If that was the case, then Stephen Struve would be the world champion. He's 6'11".
I'm gonna just go with an old adage that I heard growing up, like size ain't shit, bro. Like that is just it's as simple as that. And I just like even like when you're looking at a thing where he's talking about he did karate for however long, dude might be a bad boy against an average NBA player or whoever he bullies around in the league. But when you put him in there with somebody like Jon Jones trained to kill, bro, like he's not point kicking and like they can't even really hit each other hard. It's a foul, right? Like if they hit each other too hard. So you can't tell me that boy is combat ready to get in there with one of the greatest that ever been in there. And then you got me defending Jon Jones, like Jamell said. Like, I don't even like doing that. But
Hey, listen, T. My beef is gone. Unc is retired. I ain't got no more beef.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My beef is gone.
Yeah,
but
and
you
that's
gotta
why
keep it real. You gotta keep it real. Jon Jones, he's not beating Jon Jones, right?
No,
but
bro.
he does have a black belt. He does
But you
have
can't
a black belt.
And that's what he said.
You can't tell me he better than a Cyril Gane. Like for in his mind, I'm saying, like, bro,
Yeah,
Cyril
because that's
Gane
the thing, right? Cyril Gane's a fantastic kickboxer.
And look what
better
he
than
did.
him.
Way
Hey,
better
you know,
than him.
you know what Cyril Gane said?
What?
Cyril Gane said, if I can keep him from taking me down, I'm going to win.
But he couldn't take it down.
How did that
I
work?
think they took Cyril Gane down in 7 seconds, dog.
Oh, yeah.
Cyril Gane is training wrestling for a really long time. He's a super high level kickboxer, and when he can stand, he can beat all the best fighters in the world. Cyril Gane was an interim champion. Cyril Gane was undefeated. Cyril Gane did so many great things to work his way into that title fight with Jon Jones. And when he fought Jones, that one area was so much better than what he expected that it wasn't competitive. So for this guy that played in the NBA to say, I've been doing kickboxing and striking for, however long it's been, it's crazy. But then you know what also makes it's like one of the biggest points that I like to make. It goes back to this. When Terrence Crawford is a guy that boxed his whole life, right? Errol Spence started in high school. When they boxed each other, you literally could just see the difference between a guy that had done it his whole life and a guy that was like trained from an older age. He didn't have those like instincts that Terrence Crawford has. So it's even in that. Me and Mo. You guys remember when me and Mo used to wrestle competitively? Like Mo would get lost in scrambles and stuff, and I would take him down and beat him. But that's because I started wrestling when I was a kid. He didn't start wrestling until he was a freshman in high school. So no matter how good he got, he didn't develop those natural instincts that come from when you're a kid and you learn the sport. So even if James Johnson is able to wrestle for a while and he's been kicking and striking for a while, you can't say I started doing jiu-jitsu in middle school and it'll suffice, because Jones been wrestling since he was 5 years old. It's hard to make up that gap. And I think that he's underestimating what can happen in there. I promise you guys, when I was wrestling, I used to always think to myself, I could be the world champion. I always thought I can go. When Chuck Liddell and them dudes was the best, I was like, I could beat them dudes. But then the moment I went in there and I started fighting with them dudes in the gym, I was like, this is way different than I thought. Like, they're just better. They're literally just better.
Experience. That experience in the years. Jon Jones has so many fights. He has so much training hours, so many fights. It's no way you can do a year of that, right? A year of that and think you can go straight to the top. It doesn't happen like that.
It was hard for me to take him down. If me and Jon Jones had on wrestling shoes and we just bent over at the waist, I would beat him. But in a mixed martial arts fight wrestling, it was hard for me to take him down. Imagine what would happen with that dude.
It's levels. It's really levels. There's elite in the UFC. There's good in the. There's really good in the. But it's just levels, right? It's just levels.
The problem
can't go straight to the top of the mountain.
The problem is Ryan Hollins was the person that's interviewing him. He gassing him. I'm looking back at that stuff like, ouch, Ryan. Like Ryan gassing him. He's like, with that size, we out here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, bro.
He reeling him in. Ryan Hollins, this interview gonna do numbers. He like, this interview about to do numbers. I'm gonna get him.
Hey, he had the big fish on that hook.
Oh, yeah, you got that boy believing.
Got him. Come here. Got him.
That's crazy, dog.
I think the moment would just be too big for him, too. Like, that's another thing that they underestimate is like putting him in that cage with all those people around, those rabid MMA fans, and you just stand across from somebody that's ready to do you in. It's like there's no way his anxiety level is gonna stay up for that.
Yeah,
that's nerve-wracking for the greatest of MMA fighters.
Bro, they could have 0 people in there and he still has no chance. It's not
True.
even
Oh, no, like 100%. I believe that too.
Put
I'm just saying, like,
come on,
that's
dog.
an added bonus, you know what I mean?
Hey,
Yeah,
the only thing I could judge James Johnson of is all the almost fights he had in NBA game.
Yeah.
He has a lot of almost fights in the game. Jon Jones has a lot of fights, bro.
Yeah,
Come
a lot
on,
of
man.
fights.
You can't judge on almost fights, bro.
Hey, how do
I
you
can't
judge?
tell you how
do
many
you judge
times-
the winner in the almost fights, though? That's the question.
Almost fights.
Man, I can't tell you how many times I would think in there, like, man, how in the world did I get here? And I remember y'all telling me how nervous y'all would get before I fought. That's something we're gonna touch on next time we get back on the show. Fellas, we 25 minutes in. How fast does time go whenever we doing this? Shit flies, don't it?
It goes quick, man.
And
I hope
listen,
you're enjoying it, man. I hope y'all enjoying doing this because, like I said last week, it's some of the funnest things that I do in all of my YouTube, TV, and everything else. Guys, thank y'all for the support. We appreciate it. Every week, we're going to just talk like this. It might not be as appropriate. They might not be as appropriate, or they might not feel or sound like the people that normally talk about the sport. But don't you want to talk to guys that talk about fighting just like you? That's exactly what I'm bringing to you. Until next time, like, subscribe, tell your friend to tell a friend that DC's got a YouTube channel. And now I'm taking you into Cormier's Corner every single week. Thank you for the support. I love and appreciate every one of you. Until next time, peace.